Hey guys, I'm here today with a talk-through tutorial on this tousled wave look. I completely spaced filming an intro, so I wanted to just hop on and let you know I did this tutorial because I get a lot of questions about how to achieve that natural, more wavy look. And I also wanted to include some tips and tricks on how to get a great end result with a traditional clipped curling iron. I share all of the products that I personally used in my hair, but I'll list some of my favorites for other hair textures below. Okay, so now we're going to get started. Just to give you guys a little bit of what is currently going on in my hair. I washed it last night and just used a little bit of Paul Mitchell's Invisiblewear Velvet Cream just for a light hold. I really love that this gives a silky, lightweight feel to the hair, but it's going to give some memory as I go through and curl. So I'm going to take down this situation here. I did not blow dry my hair. I just let it air dry. It's very infrequently that I blow dry my hair. In all honesty, I just don't feel like taking the time. So I just let it air dry. And this is the reality of the situation. I did put it up in a scrunchie when I got up this morning, almost to just pull it back and contain it a little bit, but it's still a little bit damp. And what I find when I go through and let my hair air dry, the hairline can still be a little bit fuzzy from my natural wave coming through. So I'm just going to blow dry for a couple minutes to go ahead and sort of smooth down some of these edges. So I'm going to use a little bit of the Invisiblewear Boomerang Restyling Mist. That's exactly what this does. It's going to help you restyle your hair. It just helps refresh your hair in between days, and in this case it's just going to sort of give me a chance to reinvigorate my edges here and smooth those down. And then I feel like it's about 10% damp still from last night, Thick Hair Reality. So I'm just going to give that a really quick blow dry. I'm just going to spritz in here. So like I said, this spray is great for if you get hot at night and you tend to find that your colics sort of reactivate, or any waviness that your hair might get. So just a little bit of that is going to help me smooth my hairline as I go through. I'm not really worried about any of this. All of this texture will be smoothed out when we use our curling iron, but unless I'm going to get right down to my scalp, which is impossible with the curling iron, this won't be smoothed out. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that with a blow dry. And I'll probably just go through with a brush around my hairline, but then the rest I'm just going to use my fingers. Just keep it nice and simple. So as I'm blow drying, I just want to let you know I chose not to blow dry from damp because I know my wavy texture will smooth out pretty well when we curl, and I also am not working to achieve more volume. If you have finer hair and you're looking for more volume, you will want to go through and blow dry from the beginning. And the same goes if you have extra curly hair, you'll probably want to go through with a blow dryer to initially smooth out some of your texture. Okay, so now that the blow dry is done, my hair feels 100% dry, and that's definitely one thing that I want to tell you guys is key. I feel like sometimes people just don't completely blow dry their hair, and if your hair has any moisture left in it, your curls are gonna fall. So hopefully today you'll learn some tips and tricks on the ways to keep your hair, the curl holding. I feel like a lot of times I have guests that, you know, say I do the same things you do, and it never lasts as long. So one of the things, huge key, is to make sure that your hair is 100% dry when you go through and curl it. So as you can see, it's a little bit like fuzzy. A lot of that is just because I didn't, you know, do like a smoothing blowout. I just went through and quickly rough dried it, and I'm not really concerned about that because I am going to be using a clipped curling iron, something that has your regular clip. So I feel like in that case you get a much smoother end result because you have that hot metal that's polishing both sides of the hair. So again, I have that velvet cream in my hair just for a little bit of lightweight hold, and then as I go through with each tier of my hair, I'm going to be using Paul Mitchell's Hot Off the Press Heat Protectant Spray. This is still one of my true favorites because I love the lightweight hold that it has, but it really does help protect your hair from the heat. And so as you're going through, you know that you are helping save your strands as you give it an extra dose of hold. So usually what I tell people is, depending on the density of your hair, you want to section off your hair in like 3 or 4 tiers. So say from ears down, sometimes you might want to take that into 2 if you're doing smaller curls or you have a lot of density at your nape, and then usually from like eyebrows or temples down, and then 1 or 2 more tiers through the top. So this is really key to get a clean end result. It's sort of, you know, I think sometimes people just kind of randomly grab chunks of hair to curl, but this is going to be the best way to get a perfect end result, especially if you're looking to polish your hair a little bit. That way you make sure you don't miss any strands. So just clipping that up as we go. And then I'm just going to subdivide in the back into half and then bring both sections down through the side here. Spray with a little hot off the press. Make sure that I get all the way to the ends. So you can see I still have like some fuzzy texture at my nape from my natural wave. My hair is naturally quite wavy, so we're gonna have some of that, but it'll totally get pressed out as we go through with our curling iron. So I'm choosing to use the Express Gold Curl from Paul Mitchell. This is the 1.25 inch. So this is gonna give us a little bit more than just bodified hair, but not super curly hair either. It's gonna be a great in between. So I'm going to subsection. Usually you want to be working with sections the size of your curling iron. So if you're working with a 1.25 inch iron, you want to go through with 1 to 1.5 inch sized sections of hair as we go through. So the key to using a clipped curling iron and get a successful curl, I feel like most of us, when we first started curling our hair, we would start wrapping our iron here and then rotate all the way up and to the top. The issue with that is, first of all, these edges have been on the planet a lot longer than your hair up here. So they've been through a lot of blow dries, a lot of washings. They really don't need as much heat. And so we're trying to protect those. And what happens is if you start here, they get the most heat because they're on the iron the most of the time. The other thing is at your base, your hair is going to be more dense. So it's a little bit thicker here than at your edges. And so you really want to be able to get the most heat at the base where that's going to be the thickest. Also, just because there is more density here, usually, especially if you have long hair, you sort of run out of real estate by the time you get your hair rolled and wrapped all the way in. You sort of run out of room on the iron and then you don't get much of a curl. So then that's how we get that like triangle head curl, where it's like the ends are really curly and the base is really flat. So I'm going to show you guys what to do to eliminate that. Let me see where this random hair is coming from. There we go. So I feel like a lot of people find that they're having more success with an unclipped or a clipless iron, or like a curling wand or rod, whatever, however you want to say it. I think a big reason for that is because it teaches you how to properly curl your hair. You have to start at the base and wrap your way down. So we're going to be doing the same thing just with our clipped iron. So I'm going to open the clip. Now, to avoid that little kink that you can get, what you want to do is your hair has to be parallel to that iron. So that means that if you can tuck your hair around the iron a little bit before you close the clamp so it's curved to the curvature of the iron, that's going to keep you from getting that weird like dent in your hair. You can see I put a revolution right towards the base, and then these edges I am actually going to not leave out, but just very slightly tap through as we come in, just for a little bit looser edge. And if I find that I need to loosen that more, I just open the clamp and gently run this through to smooth that edge out a little bit, because I want the edges to be a little bit softer. So I'm going to move in a little bit more here so you guys can see. So again, I'm rotating and pausing here at the top, and then I open the clamp with my finger and then just leave those edges and just run them through the iron. If you already have straight and fairly smooth hair, you can just let your edges stay out. If you have coarser hair or wavy hair, you can't really do that because the difference, your ends will look a little bit fuzzy. So you want to make sure to actually get a little bit of heat on that section of hair, but it doesn't have to be curled necessarily into the iron. So we'll go through here, and again, just rotating, I would say like 2 to 3 revolutions at the base. You can see the edges are just left out, and then just using my thumb or your pointer finger, depending on where the iron is, and then just letting those edges slide through. If I need to, I can apply a little bit of heat. Now, if you're looking for more of a tousled effect, you can alternate going, wrapping the hair towards your face and away from your face, or you can choose to go all away from your face, and that's going to give you a little bit more of like a glam look, something that's a little bit more seamless. Again, just smoothing through here. So you can see how the edges are more straight, but still polished, and the base is a little bit curlier. So you don't want to run your fingers through your hair yet. I think that that's something that we tend to do, especially if we feel like it's maybe a little bit too curly. So we're like, oh, and we run our fingers through our hair. But you want to let that hair set and cool before you run your fingers through it. So usually I will go through and curl my entire head of hair and then do my makeup, have breakfast, have my coffee, whatever, wait 15 minutes, and then go ahead and finish out my hair. So that's a big key for the longevity of your hair. So I'm gonna go through and take down this second section. So again, we've gone through and done everything from our ears below and the back. And then I'm just gonna take from my eyebrows, and we're just going like horizontally across the head all the way around. And I'm just clipping this section up as we go through. And then again, parting it in the back. I do try to make sure that the part is maybe not exactly the same place as it was, so just sort of like bricklaying it in the back, just so that you don't have like a seam straight down the back of your head. And we'll go through, get a little hot off the press. I really do love this spray. It's so lightweight, but it just adds that extra dose of hold when you need it and you're wanting your hair to last longer. And if you need to, you can go ahead and go through and brush each of these sections out. I feel like my hair is pretty smoothed out, but you can go ahead and do that if you need to. So I'm going to choose to start alternating a few sections curling forward. So you can see I have the clip facing the back of my head. And so when I roll this in, it's going to be rolling towards my face. Now, the higher you hold the section of the hair, meaning higher up or lower down, the more volume you'll be able to get at the base of your hair. So if you're looking for a more volumized look, as you go towards the top of your head, make sure you're holding those sections really high. If you're looking for something a little bit more slim, just go ahead and leave it a little bit lower. I'm just trying to be able to show you guys. So that looks great to me, just as is. It's got a little bit of a kick out on the edge. Just give it one little smooth. So again, just leaving my edges out. So this is really gonna help save your ends from a lot of heat damage, because you can see, I mean, that was in the iron for 20 seconds maybe, and it is curled, because we really just don't need, especially if your hair has been chemically processed. I'm not a natural blonde, obviously, so I have a lot of lightening experience in there, so it really isn't gonna need a lot of time on the iron. So just those last couple seconds is really all you need. That looks great. So then we'll do the other side here. So again, if you want more volume at the base, you're gonna hold your section higher. If you're not looking for as much, you'll hold it a little bit lower, more towards the base of my hair, like the lower sections. I don't really need a lot of volume, so I don't hold it incredibly high. And you do want to make sure that if you do have tangles or anything in a section, you do comb those out before you curl it. Otherwise, you're just like ironing those knots right into your hair. So here you can see those edges, and I'm just slowly clicking through the clamp just so that it polishes that edge a little bit. And if I need to, I can run my iron over that section just to smooth it out a little bit. So some of this might be pretty basic knowledge for you guys, but I find that I get a lot of questions, you know, people having difficulty either curling their hair or getting it to last. So hopefully you get some little tips and tricks from this. Sometimes it's just nice to have a refresher. And I thought that this would be a great little like basic tutorial to give because, you know, well curled hair is sort of the foundation for a lot of other styles that we do. So it's a great way to just be able to get that foundation built in. So I'm gonna come a little bit closer so you guys can see what I'm talking about with bending the iron. So if right now my hair is completely straight out from my head, but this iron is rounded, right? So I need the hair to curve around that iron to avoid getting a kink and like a line from this clamp. So what we're gonna do is when we go through, we're going to bend the hair around that iron before I close the clamp. So right now it's straight, and then I just tuck it so that it's slightly bent before I close that clamp. And that's gonna help eliminate that little like ridge that you can get sometimes. So just leaving those edges out, and then just taking my thumb just to release some of the tension on that clamp as we go through. And then I can just sort of smooth that edge a little bit. All right, so I am probably going to fast forward through the next couple sections of hair just because there's no need to see me do the same thing over and over again. And then we'll come back for a little refresher towards the end. For those of you that have hair that's shorter than mine, you can still use these tips and tricks to achieve the same end result. However, you'll want to change the size of your iron. So as I mentioned, this is a 1.25 inch iron, and that's going to be great if you have hair around my length or longer. However, for those of you with, I would say, jawbone to collarbone length, you're going to want to choose to use a 1 inch iron for the same end result. This iron, the Express Gold Curl, does come in a 1 inch size, and that would give you the same end result. You'll go through with the same steps. You'll just be using a smaller iron so that you get more revolutions around your hair. So this is a great way to still get that wavy look on those of you with a little bit shorter hair. So now we're on the top two sections of hair, and I do like a bit of a side part. So once I get to the top, I usually just part that over and then curl as the part lays. So again, just a dose of hot off the press. And you certainly can go through before every curl you do and use your heat protectant spray. I just find that that takes a little bit longer, and so this is a quick way to make sure, as long as you're doing it tier by tier, you're gonna get a great amount of coverage with your heat protectant. Again, now that I'm on that top section, I do want a little bit more volume right at the top and the crown of my head, so I'm gonna hold these sections quite high as I curl. And you might have seen that occasionally I will run through a section like this. And what I'm essentially doing is basically preheating that section just because it's a little thicker at the base, and I want to make sure that that hair is nice and warm. So it's also just helping to smooth out that root because I do have a wavier hair type. And if it's more comfortable for you to come over from the other side, you can certainly do that. Just making sure that all of the same rules apply, that you're bending the hair, that you're leaving the edges out. But sometimes for people it is a little bit more comfortable, and you can get a little bit higher with your sections than you can by crossing your body with your arm. Now I find on the top sections I tend to go a little bit skinnier. So maybe I'm going to take like a 1 by 1 inch section just to make sure that I get a really smooth end result around the sort of like edge of the hair, just because you want it to be a little bit more polished at the top. Also, I just find that my hair is a little bit more dense in that area, so I need to take a little bit smaller sections. And this tiny little edge hair, and I tend to get a little bit fuzzy through here. So again, I'm just going to go through and see how I'm curving that hair, and then just tapping out just to be able to smooth out those hairs a little bit. And again, when you're doing this yourself, I would give it probably 10 minutes to cool if you really can. The longer you can go, the better. There's not really like a too long before you brush through this with your fingers or a wide tooth comb. And usually on that very top section, I like to curl everything backwards just for a little bit more uniform appearance on the top edge. So really letting the heat smooth out my base, which is the nice thing about, you know, curling more, starting at the top or the base of your hair and then getting down to the edges, because I want to have this hair on the iron for a little bit longer than I do the edges. So that's gonna help hold the curl a lot longer. So again, coming through here, bending that hair first before I run this through to smooth it. That way we don't get that little kink. So I usually let this sit for a few seconds and then rotate through and then just smooth out that edge. Okay, so now I'm gonna choose to go through with a little bit of finishing spray. Today I'm gonna choose Awapuhi Wild Ginger, here we go, Awapuhi Wild Ginger Anti-Frizz Hairspray, because it's a little rainy out today, so I've got that moisture in the air. This hairspray is so beautiful because it adds a great dose of shine to your hair and a very touchable, lightweight hold to the hair. So it's not stiff or crunchy. You can still run your fingers through your hair, but it's gonna help keep your hair from getting frizzy throughout the day. So I'm gonna actually spray this in before everything has cooled, but I'm not going to run my fingers through yet. So I'm going to let that sit for a few minutes and I will be back to show you how I finish it out. Okay, so now it's been about 10 minutes and my hair feels completely cool. So now we can go ahead and run our fingers through it. So really, that's quite literally all I do is just gently run my fingers through to piece out the curls. And I still have my iron warm. I actually turned it down a little bit. I was curling my hair at 410 just because I have coarse hair that's pretty dense. So most people, I would say I usually say like 360, 380. It just kind of depends on your hair type and how resistant your hair is. But I definitely needed that smoothness today, especially if you've taken the time to go ahead and blow out your hair and you have a smoother end result. You don't necessarily need the heat quite as high. But today I definitely needed that little bit of heat. And you guys, I mean, heat is necessary. I know there's so much focus on like, you know, not using as much heat, but sometimes you do really need that heat to get the end result that you're looking for. The key is to be using great heat protectants in your hair to help avoid any damage. So like I said, I still have my curling iron on. I've just turned it a lot lower if I feel like I need to adjust a piece or two. So I think I'm actually gonna take this piece just because it's all a little too uniform for me. I want to kind of shake that up a little bit more. So we'll take this one here and go ahead and just revisit that section, if you will, just to sort of give it a different feel. I just don't want it to be like too exactly like its neighbor. There we go, that's a little bit better. So if you, today it's actually not too bad, but a lot of times we will get those little hairs that tend to stand up around our hairline, and I think it's hard to find the perfect product to be able to polish that down, because if you use something that is too heavy, it makes your hair a little flat and it can look greasy really quickly, and we're trying to stretch our styles out between washes, right? So otherwise, sometimes you use something that's too lightweight and then it really doesn't do anything. And I find that a lot of times people just try to use hairspray to smooth that down, but oftentimes you need something that has a little bit of a feel to it to actually press that down before you go through a spray. So my favorite for this is Cloud Whip from the Invisiblewear category. So this is ideal because to me it almost has a cream to powder finish. That's just my personal kind of take on this. And I'm just going to use a tiny little bit and rub it in. You guys probably won't be able to see this, but I also get those little, like, I like to call them my little J-Lo hairs that tend to like to creep down onto my forehead a little bit. But this is great to just be able to push those pieces back down into place. And it's also perfect for running through your edges to just kind of piece out your layers to get your curls a little bit more separated. But because it has a little bit more of a satin finish versus a really shiny feel, it gives you that more modern texture that we're all looking for right now, as opposed to like overly glossy. And this won't weigh your hair down at all, and it smells amazing. So you guys can see we just have really nice bodified looser waves. I think this is really kind of an ideal platform to start the week, because from here you can take it into, you know, half up, you can run it into a braid or work into a really nice texturized messy bun throughout the week. So I hope that you guys maybe caught a couple tips from this. Like I said, it's just those little things that make a big difference, and please feel free to leave any questions in the comment bar down below. Also, let me know if there's anything you'd like to see in the future. I am working on getting some beauty tutorials as far as like makeup and skincare up. I'm just working on my filming space. This isn't quite as ideal when you're working on makeup, so hopefully that will be coming soon in the future. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me today, and I'll see you really soon.